You don't want to know what this guy was doing. Or maybe you do. This is where the Fallout series really nails its signature vibe, at least in my opinion. Nothing shows it off better than the corpse jokes scattered across its radioactive wastelands. They give you a peek into the lives of people who weren't as lucky as you, and a twisted glimpse into the wild imaginations of Fallout's developers. You've run across them here and there, I'm sure. A skeleton on the toilet reading a newspaper, or maybe the skeleton couple still holding hands. It's a common occurrence for us Fallout fans, but I wanted to showcase some of the more interesting skeletons you can find. And it gets even weirder than you can imagine. If you like this content and you want to see more, consider subscribing, because we have a lot more in the works. Also, if you watch the vid and you find yourself enjoying it, maybe give it a like. I'd appreciate it, and it helps out the channel a bunch. Thank you guys. Enjoy. In Fallout 4's Nuke world, inside the magical kingdom, you'll come across the Funhouse, an odd little spot that you'll pass through while chasing the ghoul magician Oswald the Outrageous. But if you take a moment to explore, especially in the spinning room with its many doors, you'll stumble upon some truly strange and delightful surprises. Behind one of the doors, you'll find a clear nod to the iconic shower scene from Psycho, a skeleton positioned in a way to be surprised at an unwelcome shower encounter. Obviously, like I said, it's a reconstruction of the Psycho scene here, but it does make me wonder how this skeleton wound up like this. Was it just raiders having some fun? Maybe Oswald the magician or his ghoul community? Or did this person actually die like this? Which wouldn't be a stretch, mind you. You guys will see further on in the video just how weird it can get. I don't know, but it's a cool one. There's also some funny Easter eggs you can find in here, like some toys watching TV, gnomes playing poker, and some more stuff if you want to check it out. A lot of these are humorous in nature. Like I said in the intro, that's pretty much Fallout's entire personality, mixing the dark nature of humanity with a light and funny tone. But this skeleton that we talk about next is definitely on the darker side. We find it inside the Villa police station in the New Vegas DLC Dead Money, a hand stretching out of a cell, reaching for what was essentially 1 or 2 days of life, some bottles of water. They were placed just a few feet from the cell so that they could never be reached, and this person did exactly that. Whatever kind of sick bastard decided to pull this prank deserves the fate that probably awaited them when the bombs fell. Since we're already exploring New Vegas, why not check out another corpse here? For this one to show up, you need to make sure that you have the Wild Wasteland perk or the skeleton won't be there. If you take a stroll south of Good Springs, you'll come across Dr. Jones. If you missed this back in 2010, it's a nod to the 4th Indiana Jones movie, where Indy survives a nuclear blast by hiding in a fridge. At this spot, you'll find a busted fridge with a skeleton inside, baking under the desert sun. Funnily enough, I think this skeleton is far more realistic than what happened to Indy in the movie. He probably would have ended up looking more like this. Bethesda loves using these skeletons for movie references. On the island of Far Harbor in Fallout 4, just north of the nucleus, you'll come across a pair of waterlogged lovers. It's clearly a nod to Titanic, but I like to imagine a different backstory for this scenario. They could have just been enjoying a nice lake retreat when the bombs began falling, and maybe their boat capsized and they were left stranded. I will say that the shore really isn't that far, especially if you're clinging onto a door or a large piece of wood and you could just paddle your way back. Which leaves us with one weird question. How did they end up like this? Maybe they were already stranded in the lake before the bombs fell, and then when they died, they were preserved in this form. It also makes me wonder if the Fallout universe has its own Titanic movie. The games parody so much of our world. We do know there's a film called Love Sets Sail. Maybe that one also has a scene with a giant door and 2 people who don't understand basic surface area. If you knew your time was up, how would you spend your final moments? Confess your feelings to someone? Take a swing at the mailman because he oddly looks more like your kid than you do? All great options, but this guy named Shades had a different idea for his end. First, you dress up in some clothes that make you look good and feel good. Hat, sunglasses, the whole ordeal. Then you dress up your teddy bear too. Park yourself in your favorite subway station, toss your life savings into the air, and light up a cigar. There is another skeleton right next to Shades, so maybe he wasn't alone with his teddy bear in the final moments. Personally, I like to think this wasn't a last hurrah. This was just how Shades spent his typical day. Respect. Also, since we're talking about skeletons and remains, I would like to bring up the theory that the teddy bears found in Fallout are actually the skeletons of children, but the devs didn't want to put them in because it's too dark. This just isn't the case. Our Philip on the Fallout 4 subreddit brings up some good points to dispel these rumors. Like, I doubt kids pre-war were driving school buses, or these two drinking alcohol and playing checkers. And don't forget an abundance of teddy bears doing bad things that makes the entire premise of this theory very wrong. But there are kid skeletons in the games, most notably in Springvale Elementary in Fallout 3. The skeletons are in cages and the walls have small bloody handprints on them. Anyways, I do think it's entirely possible that the children's skeletons aren't included in the games because maybe it was a little too morbid and dark. But I don't think the devs went out of their way to include teddy bears in their stead. In one of the buildings in Concord, we can find two skeletons that died in an odd way. As you can see, these two people were clearly at each other's throats, and I have a lot of questions for this one. First, why is one of the skeletons dressed and the other isn't? Maybe the naked skeleton had some low quality clothing items on when they died and it didn't hold up for 200 years, which seems plausible. Or there's some darker implications taking place. Or more likely the devs just didn't think about it. The other question I have is, why are these people fighting each other and what for? Well, the answer seems simple enough. I mean, the guy died on top of it. There's a safe here with some money and other items stashed away. Maybe while the chaos was happening, someone decided to go looting, or it's entirely possible that they just didn't like this person and took their chance to end them before the bombs did. Let's go underneath the White House in the metros, which, by the way, you can't get here unless you have the Broken Steel DLC, in case you wanted to have your own look. Here you'll find this skeleton, wedged into a light fixture on the ceiling. That's a very strange way to die. In fact, it almost seems impossible. This is where Fallout 3 shines with its incredible environmental storytelling. Nearby, you'll find a crashed motorcycle and makeshift ramps that lead up to a car. Clearly, someone went wild after the bombs fell and created their own little fun down in the metros. They were probably using their bike to drive around and then found the car and decided to go Evel Knievel. That jump apparently did not end well for our friend here, but at least he died doing what he loved, I think. In the forest region of Appalachia, found just north of the Sunshine Meadows Industrial Farms, you'll find two skeletons that are all that's left of what must have been an alcohol-fueled duel, sparked by too much Nukashine and wine. The skeletons are seated on two toilets, hilariously out of place in the wilderness. At their feet lie their weapons, including a 10mm pistol, along with empty bottles scattered nearby. I don't exactly know what type of game they decided to play or what the rules were, or why they have two toilets to sit on in the middle of nowhere, but it does appear to me that at the very least, they both lost the duel. In a Pulowski preservation shelter that's located nearby the Lexington apartments, you'll find a skeleton inside, because these things are scams and anyone who thought they would save them were very, very wrong. But you won't just find the skeleton inside, you'll find a bunch of skeletons surrounding the shelter, probably trying to get in when the bombs were falling. But the skeleton that's inside is the interesting one. It appears to be a soldier, and he's cradling a mini nuke with his body. My initial thought of this is that he was trying to save the people around him from his nuke. He probably thought to himself that this thing could be activated by the bombs falling and kill a lot of people. So he did the selfless thing and made his way to a shelter and covered the bomb in hopes that it wouldn't go off. Clearly it worked, as the nuke is still intact. Unfortunately, everyone else around him still died. Bet he never thought that his nuke might be used to kill a giant mutated lizard though. Nipton has lots and lots and lots of skeletons. Bones should be considered the currency here, honestly. But there is a pair of skeletons here that are more interesting. Next to a ruined house near the town hall, you'll find two skeletons lying face down in the sand. This is a nod to Owen and Boba from the Star Wars franchise. The skeletons aren't inherently interesting in the Fallout world. They're just two people who died. In fact, this is a lot more realistic than most of the skeletons you'll find. But what's more interesting is the fact that it's a little Easter egg. In the Museum of Technology in Fallout 3, there's a demonstration vault. When you go inside of it, it will have automated systems that tell you about what the vault can do. Listen to this message right here.
The living sections make use of our revolutionary floor suck auto cleaner system for those darned messy kids. Never sweep again.
Well, right after you hear that and you turn, you'll notice this guy. A man who died doing exactly the opposite of what the message was saying. Sweeping. Poor guy died on the job, and while doing such a meaningless task. I mean, just look at the floors now. This guy probably deserves his own video, but the bodies he left behind are some of the strangest skeletons you can find in Fallout. The Fens Phantom was a notorious serial killer active in Boston before the Great War, responsible for at least 24 known murders. He displayed his victims' remains in a section of the city's sewers beneath the Fens, which he used as his personal base of operations. Strangely, this gruesome lair went unnoticed by the public, as the Phantom revealed its existence to only one detective. He provided the detective with a holotape containing a clue, and subsequently left more tapes addressed to his dear detective, guiding them through the sewers and offering a twisted glimpse into his psyche.
Here we are, detective. If you followed my instructions, you're alone. And well, if you aren't, I've already left. You better be alone. Well, come on in. I've put my work on display down here, and I'd very much like you to see it.
The Phantom was deeply frustrated with societal norms, seeing people as shallow and insincere. He used the holotapes to share his grim worldview with anyone willing to listen. First, we have this skeleton that is propped up to look like he's fishing his own head out of the water. Another person that was hung upside down with an X marks below their head. Not sure the purpose of this one. A skeleton being barbecued up, one with a Brahmin skull for a head instead of a human one, and maybe the worst is a bunch of skeletons displayed around a bunch of baby strollers. This guy was clearly sick in the head. In a canyon in Zion during the Honest Hearts DLC from New Vegas, we can find a terrible accident. A bus has careened off the side of a cliff full of passengers. It's another good example that there are in fact children's skeletons in the Fallout games. The bus was split in two with lots of bodies thrown about. A cool thing about this location is it's where you can find a broken compass and its module. It's not hard to piece together what exactly happened here. The bombs went off and this driver probably lost their nerve and made a mistake. Or perhaps the driver didn't want to face what was in their near future and made a terrible decision. The best part about most of these skeletons is that they don't give you a story. You just piece together clues and come up with your own theories as to what could have possibly happened. What do you guys think happened to this bus? Or maybe what happened to any of the skeletons in the video? I want to hear your personal theories. In the railroad hideout, we can find one of the oldest skeletons that you can find in all the games. A skeleton that's been around since the American Revolutionary War. A Brit soldier named John Pitcairn, located in his tomb right here. This would make this skeleton like 500 years old at this point. This is an unmarked location that we discussed in a different video where a bunch of ghouls live. I remembered finding this skeleton here while making the video, and it was one of the reasons I decided to make this video. Inside one of the shacks, you'll find a skeleton lying in the bathtub. You wouldn't believe it, but this is a pretty common occurrence in Fallout. Skeletons and bathtubs seem to gravitate towards each other. In this particular instance, we'll also find a toaster joining this skeleton. I'm sure you can connect the dots on how this person spent their last few moments. Stumbling upon it myself felt like a dark moment. I was actually shocked for half a second. Not because it's a deeply gruesome thing, but more because it was so random and nonchalant. The feeling that so many people in this universe suffered a similar fate, and yet you just notice and then walk on by, as if that life and many others were meaningless in the end. This may be one of my favorite locations in any of the Fallout games, and I had to leave it for last because it truly is the best. This is called the Shelter, and it's an unmarked location found in Fallout 3. Inside, things get weird very quickly. For one, you can find this massive stone head of some individual just lying here. Deeper inside the shelter, you'll find a feral ghoul and what looks like the remains of an old lab. The ghoul appears to be worshipping this detached skull found in a fridge, which is a pretty cool skeleton, but it's not the one we're here for. Among the bizarre sights is a damaged guard gnome with medical supplies stuck to its face, forming a makeshift Statue of Liberty. Then you'll find a trail of plungers leading from the floor, up the wall, and onto the ceiling, surrounded by bloody handprints. At the end of the trail, the skeleton of the would-be wall climber lies on the floor beneath the last plunger stuck to the ceiling. What the hell was this guy doing, and how was he climbing the wall with his plungers? It creeps me out really. thinking of some crazy guy with bloody hands crawling along the walls and ceilings with his plungers. This whole room is psychotic in the best way. You need to come here. Don't just watch videos on it or read on it. Actually come here and take a look and take in the atmosphere. It's truly special. Obviously, there are hundreds of skeletons in these games, and 90% of them are found on toilets. But if you want me to go over more of them, leave a comment or a like and let me know. If you like Fallout or other RPG content, then make sure you're subbed because we already have a bunch on the channel. Oh, and for those of you waiting on the vault videos, they're still coming. We ran into a vault that takes an extremely long time to enter, so we're just having to go through the steps for that, for footage. You can thank 76 for that one. Anyways, remember guys, enjoyed time is never wasted time, and I'll see you in the next.